Maya Richardson stood at the entrance of Lambert International Airport, her heart beating with a mixture of excitement and purpose. The morning sun reflected off the large glass windows of the terminal building as she adjusted her simple black backpack. At 34 years old, she had just become the owner of this entire airport, but nobody knew it yet. Today, she had chosen to dress differently from her usual business attire. Instead of her typical designer suits, Maya wore faded blue jeans, a plain gray sweater, and comfortable walking shoes. Her natural hair was tied back in a simple style, and she wore no makeup. She looked like any other regular traveler, which was exactly what she wanted. Perfect, Maya thought as she checked her appearance one last time in her phone's camera. She had planned this day carefully. The papers making her the owner of Lambert International Airport had been signed just yesterday, but the public announcement wouldn't happen for another week. This gave her the perfect opportunity to see how the airport really operated when no one was watching. As Maya walked through the automatic doors into the busy terminal, she felt like a secret observer in her own building. The noise of rolling suitcases, conversation, and airport announcements filled the air. She noticed everything: the slightly flickering light in the corner, the long lines at the check-in counters, and most importantly, how the staff treated different passengers. Near the information desk, she saw a group of teenage girls being helped quickly and politely. But right next to them, an elderly man with a heavy accent was being spoken to slowly and rudely, as if he couldn't understand English at all. Maya pulled out her phone and started taking mental notes. She walked past the coffee shops and gift stores, watching how the security guards seemed to follow certain passengers more than others. At one shop, she noticed how the cashier carefully counted the change twice when giving it to a woman wearing a hijab, but barely glanced at the money when serving others. Maya bought a first-class ticket to Chicago, even though she had no intention of actually flying today. She wanted to experience every part of the airport process. As she stood in line at the check-in counter, she overheard conversations between staff members that made her frown. They were making jokes about passengers' names they thought sounded funny, not realizing these were real people with real feelings. The check-in agent barely looked at Maya when she approached the counter. "Economy line is over there," the agent said without looking up, pointing to a much longer line. "I have a first-class ticket," Maya said quietly, sliding her documentation forward. The agent looked up with surprise, then quickly changed her attitude, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Richardson. Let me help you with that." As she waited for her boarding pass, Maya watched a family struggling with their luggage a few counters down. The parents were speaking Spanish, and their young children looked tired. The staff member helping them was visibly impatient, speaking loudly as if volume would help with the language barrier. Maya collected her boarding pass and headed toward security, her mind already forming plans. She had bought this airport not just as a business investment, but because she believed she could make it better. Growing up, she had watched her parents face discrimination at airports countless times. Now, standing here as the owner, she had the power to change things. She pulled out her phone and opened a notes app, typing quickly. Day 1 observations. Staff training needed in cultural sensitivity, multiple instances of bias observed. Customer service improvements required at check-in counters, translation services needed at information desks. Looking up at the large clock on the wall, Maya knew this was just the beginning of her day. She still had security to get through, and based on what she had seen so far, she expected that would be even more revealing. Taking a deep breath, she joined the security line, ready to continue her undercover observation of her new airport. Little did the staff know that their actions today would help shape the major changes coming to Lambert International Airport. Maya Richardson, the new owner they were about to mistreat, was watching everything with clear eyes and a determined heart. The security checkpoint at Lambert International Airport was busy that morning. Maya Richardson stood in line, watching as Officer James Whitman and his colleague Sarah Peters worked at their stations. Through her careful observation, she noticed something troubling. The random security checks didn't seem random at all. A young white woman in business attire walked through the scanner. The officers barely glanced at her as she passed. Right after her, an elderly Asian couple approached. Immediately, Officer Whitman's tone changed. "Stand here," he shouted at them, speaking unnecessarily loud. "Arms up. No, up higher." The elderly man tried to explain that his shoulder was hurting, but Whitman acted as if he couldn't understand him. Maya felt her jaw tighten as she watched Sarah Peters roughly handle the couple's bags, carelessly tossing their carefully folded clothes aside. The old woman's hands trembled as she tried to put her belongings back in order. Finally, it was Maya's turn. She stepped forward confidently, placing her designer carry-on bag on the conveyor belt. Despite being in casual clothes, her bag was clearly expensive, a detail that seemed to irritate Officer Whitman. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" Peters asked Maya, looking at her simple outfit. "This is the priority security lane." Maya calmly pulled out her first-class boarding pass. "Yes, I'm in the correct line." Whitman grabbed her boarding pass, studying it as if he expected it to be fake. "Richardson, is that really your name?" "Yes, it is," Maya replied quietly, noticing how he didn't question anyone else's identification. "Stand over here," Whitman ordered, pointing to the full-body scanner. "And do something about that hair. It's too big for proper screening." Maya's natural hair was neatly tied back, completely appropriate for travel. Several other passengers nearby looked uncomfortable at the officer's comment. A young woman even pulled out her phone and started recording. "Hair is fine for screening," Maya stated firmly, knowing every airport policy by heart. "Oh, so now you're telling me how to do my job." Whitman's face reddened. "Peters, we need a full security check on this one." Sarah Peters snapped on her blue gloves dramatically. "Arms out, legs apart," she commanded, beginning an unnecessarily thorough pat-down. As this happened, Maya noticed 3 other black women being pulled aside for random checks. She also saw how a group of businessmen in suits walked through without any additional screening. "What's in here?" Whitman demanded, roughly handling her bag. He pulled out her laptop, an expensive MacBook Pro. "Receipt for this?" "Are you asking all passengers for receipts of their electronics?" Maya asked calmly, making note of his badge number, a 549. "We ask questions when things don't add up." Peters jumped in, exchanging a meaningful look with Whitman. A young boy nearby tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why are they being mean to that lady?" he asked loudly. His mother quickly shushed him, but not before several other passengers turned to watch the scene. Maya stood perfectly still, her face neutral. She had expected this kind of treatment. It was exactly why she had come. What she hadn't expected was how many people would witness it, their uncomfortable expressions showing they knew something was wrong. "Is there a problem here?" A supervisor approached, drawn by the growing tension. "Just doing our job, Tom," Whitman replied. "Making sure everything's legitimate." The supervisor, Tom Miller, looked at Maya's first-class ticket and then at the growing line of frustrated passengers. "I think we're done here," he said quickly, trying to avoid a scene. Maya collected her belongings with deliberate calm. Her hands didn't shake as she repacked her bag, though inside she felt a storm of emotions. She had just witnessed exactly what needed to change in her airport. As she walked away from security, she heard Peters say to Whitman, "Can you believe her attitude? These people always think they're special." Maya smiled slightly as she pulled out her phone, adding to her notes. "Security checkpoint procedures need complete overhaul. Officers Whitman and Peters. Immediate retraining required. Supervisor Miller, weak leadership, fails to address discriminatory behavior." Little did they know, their actions had just been witnessed by their new boss. Maya checked her watch. It was only 9:30 a.m., and she had already gathered enough evidence to justify major changes in airport security protocols. "Thank you," she whispered under her breath, "for making my job easier." The real work would begin tomorrow, but for now, Maya continued her walk through the terminal, observing more and planning the big changes that would soon come to Lambert International Airport. After leaving the security checkpoint, Maya Richardson found a quiet corner in the airport's busy food court. She pulled out her laptop and began to organize everything she had seen that morning. As the new owner of Lambert International Airport, she knew that changing the airport's culture would require more than just her word. She needed solid proof. Maya opened a fresh document and began typing. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she recorded every detail of her morning experience. The time was 10:15 a.m., and she had already witnessed enough discrimination to fill several pages. As she worked, A young mother with two children sat at the table next to her. The woman was wearing a hijab and trying to calm her crying baby while her toddler wanted attention. Maya noticed how other passengers gave the family annoyed looks, but what happened next made her reach for her phone to record. A cleaning staff member approached their table. "You people need to keep it down," he said rudely. "This isn't your home country, you know." The mother looked down, her face burning with shame as she tried to quiet her children. Maya pressed the record button on her phone, capturing the whole incident. She noticed the cleaner's name tag, Robert Kane. Another note for her growing list of staff requiring immediate retraining. While documenting this new incident, Maya saw 3 more examples of unfair treatment. At the coffee shop, staff served white customers before others who had been waiting longer. At the information desk, an Indian family asking for directions was spoken to in an exaggerated, mocking tone. Near the bathrooms, a security guard followed a group of young black teenagers who were doing nothing wrong. "Excuse me," a soft voice interrupted Maya's typing. She looked up to see the young woman who had recorded her security checkpoint experience earlier. "I saw what happened to you at security. I got it all on video if you want to file a complaint." Maya smiled warmly. "Thank you. Would you be willing to send me that video?" The young woman, who introduced herself as Sarah Chen, nodded eagerly. "Of course, I'm a law student, and what they did was totally wrong. I've seen them do this to other people too." This was exactly the kind of witness statement Maya needed. She took Sarah's contact information and asked her about other incidents she had observed. Sarah had been taking early morning flights twice a week for her internship and had a whole collection of video evidence showing similar discriminatory behavior. While they talked, Maya noticed another passenger a few tables away typing furiously on his phone. He was one of the businessmen who had walked through security without extra screening while she was detained. She could see him writing a social media post about the unfair treatment he had witnessed. Maya pulled up the airport's social media accounts on her laptop. There it was, hundreds of similar complaints about discrimination, all buried under generic corporate responses. She took screenshots of everything, organizing them by date and type of incident. Next, she opened the airport's customer feedback database, which she now had access to as the owner. The pattern was clear. Complaints about discriminatory treatment were either ignored or dismissed with form letters. She downloaded all the data, adding it to her growing collection of evidence. By now, it was almost noon. Maya had filled 3 documents with detailed notes, collected contact information from 5 witnesses, and gathered video evidence of 7 separate incidents. She had names, badge numbers, timestamps, and locations for every staff member involved in discriminatory behavior. Looking around the food court, Maya noticed something else interesting. The airport staff who were kind and professional seemed to be the minority. She started a new document titled Positive Examples and began noting down these employees too. They would be valuable allies in the changes to come. As she worked, Maya remembered her father's words from years ago. "Don't just get angry, get evidence." He had taught her that real change comes from being prepared and thorough. Now, sitting in the airport she owned, surrounded by proof of the problems she needed to fix, Maya felt ready for what would come next. She saved all her documents to a secure folder named Airport Reform, Day 1. Tomorrow, she would begin analyzing everything she had gathered. But for now, she had more observations to make and more evidence to collect. The afternoon crowds were starting to arrive, and Maya Richardson, the unknown owner of Lambert International Airport, was watching everything. 1 week after her experience at the airport, Maya Richardson sat in her private office downtown, surrounded by stacks of papers and multiple computer screens. The past 7 days had been busy as she dug deeper into Lambert International Airport's problems. What she had discovered was worse than she expected. "Ms. Richardson, the HR files you requested are here," said David Chen, her trusted assistant, placing another thick folder on her desk. Maya had hired David specifically for this investigation because of his background in civil rights law. Maya opened the folder and started reading. The hiring patterns were clear. In the past 5 years, 85% of senior positions had gone to white candidates, even though many qualified minority candidates had applied. She added this information to her growing pile of evidence. "Look at this, David." Maya pointed to her computer screen. In the past month alone, there were 127 complaints about discriminatory treatment. but only 3 were investigated, and none resulted in any action. David nodded, pulling up more data on his tablet. And here's something interesting. Officers Whitman and Peters, the ones who harassed you, they've had 45 complaints filed against them this year. All were dismissed by their supervisor, Tom Miller. Maya wasn't surprised. She had spent the week sending undercover observers through security. The pattern was obvious. Minority passengers were 6 times more likely to be selected for random screening than white passengers. Her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Sarah Chen, the law student who had recorded Maya's security checkpoint incident. More videos coming your way, the message read. Caught the same officers doing it again yesterday. Opening her email, Maya found not only Sarah's new videos but also dozens of messages from other passengers. After Sarah had posted about the discrimination online, many people had come forward with their own stories and evidence. The staff training records are concerning too, David said, reviewing another file. The airport's diversity training program hasn't been updated in 8 years. And look at these attendance sheets. Most senior staff members skipped the sessions completely. Maya stood up and walked to the large whiteboard covering one wall of her office. It was filled with notes, connections, and action items. She added "update training program" to her growing list of necessary changes. What about the security footage I requested? She asked, turning to David. Just came in this morning. David pulled up several video clips on the main screen. We have footage from the past 3 months. It clearly shows a pattern of discriminatory behavior at all checkpoints. Maya watched the clips carefully. In one, an elderly Asian man was made to empty his entire suitcase while white passengers walked through with minimal checking. In another, a Muslim woman was forced to remove her hijab in public against airport policy. And here's something else, David continued, switching to a spreadsheet. I analyzed the airport's vendor contracts. Minority-owned businesses are consistently rejected for shop spaces, even when they make better offers than the accepted bidders. Maya felt a mix of anger and determination as she reviewed all the evidence. The discrimination wasn't just coming from a few bad employees. It was built into the airport's entire system. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was from her legal team, confirming that everything was ready for tomorrow's board meeting. Maya smiled, thinking about how surprised everyone would be when she walked in as the new owner. David, prepare all this for tomorrow, she said, gesturing to the evidence they had collected. Make copies for every board member and department head. Include the photos, videos, statistics, everything. David started gathering the files. What about the reform plan? Maya turned to another whiteboard, this one covered with solutions rather than problems. It's ready. New hiring policies, mandatory training programs, an independent oversight committee, and complete restructuring of the complaint system. Looking at her watch, Maya realized it was almost midnight. She had been working for 15 hours straight, but she wasn't tired. Tomorrow would be a big day, the day she would finally reveal herself as the owner and begin fixing her airport's deep-rooted problems. One more thing, David, she said as they packed up for the night. Make sure officers Whitman and Peters are in that meeting tomorrow. I want them to be there when everything changes. The day before the big board meeting, Maya Richardson stood in front of her full-length mirror, carefully checking her appearance. Gone were the casual clothes she had worn during her airport visit. Today, she wore a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, her natural hair styled professionally, and her grandmother's pearl necklace, a reminder of all the strong women in her family who had faced discrimination before her. Everything is ready for tomorrow, Ms. Richardson, David Chen said, entering her office with a large stack of folders. We prepared 25 copies of all evidence, including USB drives with the videos. Maya nodded, walking over to her desk where a detailed plan for tomorrow's meeting lay open. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her head. The faces of Officer Whitman and Sarah Peters kept appearing in her mind. Their smug expressions would soon change. Run through the schedule with me one more time, Maya said to David, wanting everything to be perfect. David pulled out his tablet. 9:00 a.m. All department heads and senior staff will gather in the main conference room. 9:15 a.m., current airport manager James Wilson will start the meeting. 9:30 a.m., you'll make your entrance. Maya smiled, remembering how James Wilson had ignored hundreds of discrimination complaints over the years. He had no idea that tomorrow would be his last day as manager. The legal team just confirmed everything. David continued. All the paperwork is in order. The moment you walk in, you'll legally have full control of the airport. Maya walked to the large window of her office, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, the night shift at Lambert International Airport was probably still discriminating against passengers, but not for much longer. Her phone buzzed, a message from Dr. Angela Martinez, the diversity consultant she had hired. Training programs are ready. We can start next week if approved. Maya had spent hours with Dr. Martinez, designing new training programs that would actually make a difference. No more outdated videos or ignored seminars. The new program would include real stories from passengers, face-to-face discussions, and regular evaluations. What about the security cameras? Maya asked, turning back to David. All set. We have teams ready to install the new system next week. Every checkpoint will be monitored and recorded. No more technical difficulties when discrimination complaints come in. Maya walked to the wall where photos of various airport staff were displayed. She had memorized every face, every name, every complaint filed against them, but she had also identified the good employees, the ones who treated everyone fairly. They would be key to changing the airport's culture. The press release is ready too, David said, showing her a draft on his tablet. As soon as the meeting ends, every major news outlet will know about the changes at Lambert International Airport. Maya took a deep breath. And the new policies? David handed her another folder. All here. New hiring practices ensuring diverse candidate pools, zero tolerance for discrimination, clear complaint procedures, monthly review meetings, and support services for passengers who experience discrimination. Walking back to her desk, Maya picked up a small photo frame. It showed her parents standing in an airport 30 years ago, looking tired and frustrated after being harassed by airport staff. She had kept this photo as a reminder of why she was doing this. Ms. Richardson, David said softly, are you sure you don't want to inform them in advance that you're the new owner? The shock might make things difficult. Maya shook her head firmly. No, they need to feel what every discriminated passenger feels, completely surprised and unprepared. The only difference is, this time, power will be on the right side. She checked her watch. 8:00 p.m. In less than 24 hours, everything would change at Lambert International Airport. Get some rest, David, Maya said, gathering her things. Tomorrow will be a long day. As she left her office, Maya touched her grandmother's pearls again. Tomorrow, she would do more than just expose discrimination. She would begin fixing a broken system. Officer Wickman, Sarah Peters, and everyone else who had abused their power were in for the surprise of their lives. The new owner of Lambert International Airport was ready to take control. The main conference room at Lambert International Airport was packed at 9:15 a.m. James Wilson, the current airport manager, stood at the front of the room, discussing monthly statistics. Officer Wickman and Sarah Peters sat near the back, looking bored. None of them noticed David Chen quietly setting up a laptop and projector. And now, Wilson said, checking his notes, we have a special guest who wants to discuss some operational changes. The door opened. Maya Richardson walked in, her heels clicking confidently on the floor. Several people gasped. Officer Wickman and Sarah Peters immediately recognized her as the woman they had harassed at security last week. Good morning, everyone, Maya said clearly, walking to the front of the room. I'm Maya Richardson, and as of last week, I am the new owner of Lambert International Airport. The room fell completely silent. James Wilson's face turned pale. I wasn't informed. That was intentional, Maya replied, taking control of the room. David, please start the presentation. The first image appeared on the screen. Maya being harassed at the security checkpoint. Officer Wickman shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Sarah Peters stared at the floor. Last week, I spent a day observing our airport's operations, Maya continued. What I saw was unacceptable. She clicked to the next slide, showing statistics of discriminatory incidents. In the past year alone, we've had 1,547 complaints about discrimination. Mr. Wilson, you dismissed every single one. Maya turned to face the manager, who was now sweating visibly. Those were just misunderstandings, Wilson stammered. Really? Maya played a video showing multiple incidents of discrimination. Is it a misunderstanding when Officer Whitman and Officer Peters consistently target minority passengers for random searches? Both officers sank lower in their chairs. Other staff members started whispering among themselves. Or perhaps, Maya continued, changing to another slide, you can explain why our hiring data shows clear discrimination against qualified minority candidates. The room grew tenser with each revelation. Maya walked slowly around the table, making eye contact with each person. Some of you are probably wondering why I didn't announce my ownership immediately, she said. I needed to see how this airport really operates, and what I saw was shameful. She stopped behind Wilson's chair. Mr. Wilson, your employment at this airport is terminated, effective immediately. Please collect your belongings today. Wilson opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Officer Whitman, Officer Peters, Maya turned to them. Do you remember telling me last week that these people always think they're special? The two officers looked like they wanted to disappear. Other staff members moved their chairs away from them. You were right about one thing, Maya said. I am special. I'm the woman who now signs your paychecks. David distributed thick folders to everyone in the room. These contain evidence of discrimination, new airport policies, and mandatory training schedules, Maya explained. But you can't just change everything, Wilson protested weakly. Maya raised an eyebrow. Actually, I can and I will. This airport will no longer tolerate discrimination in any form. She walked back to the front of the room. Some of you will be fired. Others will undergo extensive retraining, and all of you will be held accountable for your actions from this day forward. The room remained silent as Maya outlined the changes. New security protocols, diversity training, complaint procedures, and hiring policies. One more thing, Maya said, picking up a remote control. Every TV screen in the airport suddenly changed to show her face. This message is now playing throughout the terminal. On the screens, Maya introduced herself to all airport staff and passengers, announcing the new anti-discrimination policies and encouraging people to report any incidents. Officers Whitman and Peters, she said finally, you have a choice. Either resign now or join our new intensive training program and prove you can change. The two officers looked at each other, then at Maya, finally understanding the full impact of their actions. The choice is yours, Maya concluded. But remember, I'm watching everything now, and unlike the previous management, I will take action. As she finished speaking, the room erupted in chaos. The Maya stood calmly, knowing that this was just the beginning of big changes at Lambert International Airport. 6 months had passed since Maya Richardson's dramatic revelation as the owner of Lambert International Airport. Standing at the large window of her new office overlooking the runways, she smiled as she reviewed the latest customer satisfaction reports. The numbers are impressive, David Chen said, laying out the latest statistics. Passenger complaints about discrimination have dropped by 95%. Overall customer satisfaction is up by 78%. The airport had changed dramatically. New signs in multiple languages welcomed travelers throughout the terminal. Help desks now had staff who could speak various languages, and a new mobile app allowed passengers to report problems instantly. Surprisingly, Officers Whitman and Peters had chosen to stay and complete the training program. Maya watched through her office window as Officer Peters helped a Muslim family navigate security, showing patience and respect, something unimaginable 6 months ago. Officer Whitman's group just finished their monthly community meeting, David reported, checking his tablet. The local minority business owners say they've seen a complete change in how they're treated at security. Maya nodded, remembering how resistant Whitman had been at first, but after working directly with diversity trainers and hearing stories from people he had hurt, something in him had changed. Now, he led training sessions for new security staff, using his own past mistakes as teaching examples. The airport's hiring had changed too. The staff now reflected the diversity of the city they served. The new deputy manager was Sarah Chen, the same law student who had recorded Maya's discrimination incident 6 months ago. After graduating, she had joined the airport's legal team and quickly proved herself as a leader. The shop owners want to meet with you, David continued. Since we started giving equal opportunities to minority-owned businesses, airport revenue has increased by 25%. Walking through the terminal, Maya saw the results of her changes everywhere. The old coffee shop that had discriminated against customers was now run by the young Muslim mother she had seen being harassed 6 months ago. The woman waved at Maya as she passed. At security, Maya stopped to watch the new procedures in action. Every checkpoint had cameras recording everything. Screens displayed wait times and selection rates to ensure no group was being targeted unfairly. A young black family went through security without any harassment, now a normal occurrence rather than an exception. Ms. Richardson, a familiar voice called. It was Officer Peters, looking very different from the angry, prejudiced person she had been. Would you join us for a moment? Maya followed her to a training room where a group of security officers was gathering. To her surprise, Officer Whitman was at the front, teaching a session about recognizing and preventing unconscious bias. 6 months ago, I was part of the problem, Whitman told the group, not realizing Maya had entered. I thought I was just doing my job, but I was really just acting on my prejudices. It took the new owner showing me video of my own behavior to realize how wrong I was. The room fell silent when they noticed Maya, but she smiled and gestured for Whitman to continue. Today, we're going to learn about cultural sensitivity, he said, because our job isn't just about security, it's about treating every passenger with dignity and respect. Later that afternoon, Maya sat in her office reviewing more changes. The airport now offered prayer rooms for different religions, nursing rooms for mothers, and quiet spaces for children with sensory issues. Every improvement had made the airport not just more inclusive, but more successful. Her phone buzzed with a message. The Airport Management Association had chosen Lambert International Airport as a model for diversity and inclusion. Other airports were now sending their staff to learn from their program. One last thing, David said before leaving for the day. Remember the little boy who asked his mother why we were being mean to you 6 months ago? His family flew through here yesterday. He showed Maya a social media post from the boy's mother. Amazing change at Lambert Airport. My son asked why everyone was so nice now. Proud to see how treating people with respect can transform a place. Maya smiled, touching her grandmother's pearls that she still wore every day. The airport hadn't just changed its policies, it had changed its heart. And that was the greatest transformation of all.